Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today we have our lovely guest, Sheila, and she has a YouTube channel of her own. Sheila, would you like to give a few words about yourself?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me. So Sheila is my name, and I am been on YouTube maybe about a year or so, and I have been typed and relate to being an ISFP.
Yes, and you are very aesthetic, like an Isfp. Like you look like so well put, like, and your outfit is on point. So, like +2 SE aesthetics.
I was channeling my inner Marilyn Monroe because I feel like she might be an ISFP.
I could see that.
Are very much embodies that part of the ISFP. So I was channeling her today with my pearls and my polka dot dress. So that's not every day do I, wear pearls or, fake pearls, whatever. But I thought it'd be fun today. It's all about being fun.
Yeah, always like switching up that self-expression. Very, very cool. So my first question for you, Sheila, is what are 3 words you would describe yourself as?
I would consider myself creative, stubborn, and loyal.
Yes, you are very creative. Yes, your outfit is already a testament to that. I'm sorry, I keep complimenting you, but it's like, wow, so pretty.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. And so, yeah, what are 3 words other people would describe you as?
Well, because I, sometimes don't know what the tribe thinks of me, I can try to guess whatever. So I actually I've asked, you know, people close to me, like that have known me all my life, and they, everyone always says how creative I am. Um, my sister called me self-enthralled, and my good friend, she called me impulsive and curious. So those are kind of the feedback I got from the outside world.
Yes. Sometimes like FI and TI doesn't really always keep a pulse on what the tribe is thinking about themselves. So that makes a lot of sense. And yes, you are very creative with colors, like matching your hair with your outfit, like bomb.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I had to laugh with my sister, self-enthralled. I much prefer that term over self-absorbed or, um, yeah, it was less painful. And I know as an FI Dom that I do get kind of caught up and wrapped up in me and what I want to do and what I like. And it does come off to the tribe as very self-absorbed and self-centered. And it can't not, because it is FI or TI and it's about self and it's first and identity. And so I see that. I don't think prior to all this, deep diving into myself, I would have really recognized that. But when I started paying attention and tracking what I do all day long, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all about Sheila. But not in a bad way, because I still, come up for air and look out at the tribe and make sure I'm not burning too many bridges. But I do get knocked on often and be like, hello, where are you? So yeah, that constant balance of self and tribe.
Yes, that balance is real. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
find
you have the TI too, so I wonder, because you're technically a little IP-ish in that fact where, you've got the identity up high too. So you probably can relate to that on some type of level.
yeah, like I find like INFJs who are more NITI are a little more like authentic looking than the NIFE. Like I've been told that, it seems like I'm a little more like authentic than the regular INFJ. I think it's supposed to be a compliment, but I was like, yeah, I was like, okay. Yes.
I wonder how they meant authentic, because I definitely have my definition of what I think as being authentic. And yeah, I wonder, it's got to be different for everybody who uses that word or feels like they relate to that word.
Yeah, totally. And right now you're using NI because you're trying to think about how different people are interpreting the word authentic in different ways. So something NI is good at, it's taking like a word and then knowing how it is in different contexts to different people, because it's trying to get at this like one thing, but like you have to look at how everyone views it differently to get at that, if that makes sense.
And I feel like I do for, being a sensor, I do like to dive into my NI a lot. And maybe because, in OP terms, it is masculine, so it's got the heavy weight to it, but also being a little older in life, how we say we kind of lean on our other functions a little bit more later in life. So I do really love my NI, but I probably peacock it.
Well, or maybe it's great, and I too. Sometimes like you're a double observer, so what happens is that your SE and NI, they dance with each other, so you're able to look at the real world and then make NI insights, whereas like the NI user is quicker to make broad sweeping generalizations without looking at the SE. So sometimes your NI might actually take the cake because it actually has some SE to it.
And I do love to guess and ponder about possibility. Like, and even when I'm asking people about something, I'm always like, hey, guess what, I'm thinking, or guess, it's like I want them to play the NI game with me too, of making a guess and seeing how close they are. And I do notice a lot of people don't want to guess. They're like, oh, I don't know. Like, and I'm like, well, just the little bit me, guess what I think, or guess what I'm feeling, or guess. So, because I love to guess as well and see how close I am on things. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not like, oh, I'm wrong. But, I think it just, yeah, flexing that muscle makes you a little stronger.
That's so true. I think it's like your NI plus your SE that likes the guessing thing, the guessing game, because I think the SE likes to explore options and possibilities because it's all about like OE variety. So it's going to want to know like what people think just for the sake of knowing a variety of opinions or a variety of something. But it's also NI because you're looking for something like cohesive there. And so, yeah, totally. Yes. And so, what are 3 words, Sheila, that you would describe ISFPs as?
I would say they very much are kind of like free spirits. We don't like to be boxed in, which is so typical of us saying that. But yet I still love my little boxes as well. But it's like I want to put myself in that box. I don't want others to put me in that box. So a free spirit, yeah, like very much. I wrote down a couple other things. What free spirit? I definitely do think we are very creative. And, not in the sense of, we're all artists that are, we're painting on canvases, or whatever. But I think everything we do has a creative twist to it, being simple. It's like, even, if I want to, like my hair and makeup for the day, I have to be a little creative, or putting an outfit together, creative. Way I design my home, there's always this little creative touch to it. Cooking dinner, sometimes I'll even, like sprinkle you know, a spice over the top just to give it a little more aesthetically pleasing. Like just everything is creative, at least for me. And I think a lot of ISFPs are like that. Even like the way I cut the grass, sometimes I like fun designs, or I don't know, it's just constant want to put my flair and manipulate and be creative. So, and what else? I would say we're all pretty optimistic. Like a lot of ISFPs I've seen, we do look at the glass half full, in general. I mean, yes, we can get, down or whatever, but I'm always spinning and looking for that silver lining on everything. And I feel like that everything's going to work out. It's just the way that's meant to be, like just that life. I don't know, like nothing's so heavy and dark that I can't see that sunshine and rainbow. So, and I feel like other ISFPs could be that as well.
Yeah, I also see that to be the case as well. It's just like when you have SE, what it does is it sees the possibilities. I know that NE gets the credit for, having all these possibilities, but SE is also about being aware of the options. And so that gives you an inherent optimism for some ISFPs, which I do see. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, I know we can be, our FI can be moody, and it can take us to those heavier, dark places as well. And sometimes I'm sure some can get stuck in that. It just depends what chapter you are in life, and your self-growth and your mindset of, okay, I want to stay here for a while. I need to stay in this darkness for a while to work through these feelings. And then, or I need to get out of this and I go do this. So, we are kind of the controller of our emotions. And so it's like our self-talk and it's like we have to. So if we're in the dark, we're choosing to stay in the dark. And if we're in the light, we're choosing to be in the light. So we have that control in the emotion realm. And I think we forget how powerful our control that is. So
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about like being artists, but like not in the traditional sense too. Like it's not just drawing art, but it's almost like ISFPs are the art. Like what they do, everything has a little bit of art to it. Everything has a creative twist. Like their being is the piece of art because they figure out a way to individualize it in some way. Like with like you'll notice when some FI users like they'll have some sort of creative flair to their outfits sometimes. Like sunflower cat ears for some, others, they wear this really nice earrings with their hair. And it's something that shows off their FI. Like it is like some sort of creative touch to their outfit that embodies something they want to like express. And so sometimes you can identify FI users off of that. Of course, it's not like a foolproof way, but it's something I noticed, NI trend. So
yeah. And I know that it might fall in the category of in the Enneagram 4 also. That I think a lot of ISFPs can fall into that. And there it is again with the 4 and being individual and standing out and having your own, like we don't want to look like the rest of the people. It's like, yes, if something is in style and trendy, I might be like, oh, I like that, so I'm going to wear it. But then there's a lot of times when things are too trendy, I'm like, no, no matter how much I like that, everybody's doing that. I don't want to do that. And so that could be the FI there as well. Like for years, so many people always wore Birkenstocks, and I was like, I'm never wearing Birkenstocks. And then finally I put a pair on one day and I was like, oh, these things are so comfy. I love these. Now I'm like, oh crap, I'm a Birkenstock wearer sometimes. So it's funny how we just even think that way. And I don't think I realized that I did that, but I do that. And I'm like, and it's so funny because, it's like we want to be different, but yet we're all trying to be different, that we're all the same and that difference. So I have to giggle and laugh. They're like, I guess we're not that special.
I think that you guys are special. Like I call like FI taste. So it's like they're kind of like, if something looks too bland, they'll like spice it up with a piece of their taste. If that makes sense. So you said like mowing the lawn, you'll do it in your own way. If it's like, if you feel like it and it like it'll be interesting to do it that way, like you'll do it that way, because it's like, you're doing everything. People normally do things in like a square way. I don't know, like by square I mean like they do it in a way that takes out the individuality from it. So what ISFPs are good at is like infusing individuality into the things that they do, and that's why everything that they do, like when they put themselves into it, it becomes a living art. Like the things that ISFPs touch become living arts. Like their lifestyles become living arts too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've always gotten a lot of compliments on, my style or my look over the years, and I always like, oh, like, I mean, obviously I dressed up like more fun today, but some days, I mean, just a t-shirt and jeans, but the way I guess do my hair, the makeup, they're always like, you always look so put together. I'm like, it's jeans and a t-shirt, not a big deal. And so I just always was like, I didn't understand how some people just, I mean, on the street, people will stop me and be like, oh, you look so cute. Oh, I love your outfit. Or I love this. And I'm like, thanks. And so, my daughter, my husband always are like, oh, there they go. Somebody's complimenting, Sheila's going to get a bigger head. And I just giggle because I'm like, I don't do these things for that validation or I mean, I enjoy it. Obviously, it's like, oh, well, thanks. It's like that, I guess, acknowledgement of something that I like, and so when I get ready in the morning, I don't have these other people in my mind when I get ready. It's like I just want to do what I want to do, and like because it makes me happy. So, and my husband, he's always like, well, why are you getting all dressed up? Who are you trying to impress? And I'm like, nobody, myself. Like I just want to do this for me, and so that's the first and foremost. But then always, getting the compliments or getting that feedback from the tribe always is nice too. It's, I think people would be lying if they didn't say they enjoyed that as well.
Yeah. I guess like it's all in an act of radical authenticity. So like FI is known as authenticity, and like you're just doing what feels authentic to you, and people just tend to like compliment it, but you're not doing it for that. You're just doing it because it aligns more congruently with who you are.
Yeah. And so I think non-FI users might look at FI users as, shallow in the sense of aesthetic, like because that's not important to them or they just don't understand it. But yeah, I can see it like when I look at other people who are all put together or really dolled up, I can see how the tribe is like, what are they trying to prove or what are they trying to show? And so I see it, but I always feel like I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. It's like, that's just what I want to do.
Yeah. It's like you're not doing anything to display anything to the tribe. It's literally for your own self. Totally. And so I think like half of this episode is me just complimenting you on how pretty you are. But yeah, like great job with just the coordination of the outfit. Like superb. 10 out of 10. You would win clothing outfits, like competitions with it. So wow.
Your SB is in awe, huh?
Yes. Yes, my SE is in awe of your SE. It's like aspirational. I'm like, dang, Sheila's SE is on another level. And so my next question for you is like, what are core features of the ISFP?
I would say we're pretty easygoing. Um, I would say we are kind of a little quirky and goofy when we're comfortable around you. Um, and we come off, very quiet and subdued for a lot of the outside tribe, but when we're comfy with you, you do see a whole nother realm of us. So I feel like a lot of times we might be walking contradictions in that realm, because and I think also with our SE, we do assess everything in the moment. And something I might believe at one moment, but because, there's a whole nother like element thrown into this other moment, I will act differently or say something totally off my normal script because in that moment it needed to be said differently or something. So I feel like some people might think we are kind of walking contradictions, but um, everything's always like true to us in that moment. But because moments change so quickly and circumstances change quickly, we can change and adapt quickly alongside. So I think that's a good core feature of us.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I have like FI users come on the show and they're like, "Oh, I'm a paradox," and they're like, "I'm a walking contradiction," and I'm like, "Interesting." So the FITE users view themselves as like walking contradictions. I wonder if it's like the lack of TI. It's like, oh, okay, who cares about like the logical consistency of what I do? It's all about like what feels authentic at the moment, and that changes moment to moment. And I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. Just an interesting trend I've seen. But
Okay.
yeah.
Thing, yeah, but I do feel that way. Or people can call me out on things. I'll be like, well, maybe that's how I felt, under this circumstance. But so, and FI is not logical at all. We might think it's logical in the sense of it makes sense to us, but because we are going off our values and our morals, um, and that looks different for every FI user, so I feel like because it's so different from FI user, we can look so different on the surface, but when you start digging deep down and figuring out the values and being our identity, it's similar. So yeah, my
That
dog.
is that. Ooh, cute. I've been
That's
attacked by cuteness. Hi, dog. Your owner is very pretty. Okay, so that's like fascinating. I love all your commentary, Sheila. And so I'm wondering, are there any other core features of ISFPs you notice?
we can be pretty sensitive, but not in the sense of showing our emotions outwardly. Like I I always get frustrated when people are like, "Oh, FI, they're just emotional and crying and like," and I'm like, "That's not the definition of FI at all." It's like FI is internal feelings, like introverted feeling. And so we do like to keep our feelings under wraps. Of course, they will leak out, if something's really upsetting. I can cry, but in general, in public, I don't like to show my emotions. Um, I mean, I'll show like, excitement, or like some emotions. It's not like I'm just like not showing any emotions at all. It's like I want to, express emotions, but not the crying emotions. Even at funerals, I'm like trying to be so stoic and not let anything leak out at all, even though you have free reign to let it go at a funeral. But I'm still like, like I don't know. It's embarrassing for me to let those emotions leak out. Even though I know it's human, but I feel like it makes me vulnerable and weak in front of the tribe, and I don't like that. But I don't know if that's just my FI opinion and what I value. So, but yeah, when they talk about it being just so like we're emotional, it's like we are, but not externally. So, because we are sensitive. I mean, I don't like criticism at all. And when we are criticized for our values or our morals, because it's our identity, it is crushing. It is like like that big gut blow, like it takes that like the wind out of you a little bit. So but I definitely will just try to keep it down. So I ramble. I'm sorry if I ramble a lot.
Oh, I love your rambling. Yes, it's all good to me. I love it.
Well,
So
you
it's
know what I'm saying half the time when I'm rambling. I'm like, listen back. I'm like, really? I went there? I don't even know. Like, I don't know if that's just a higher play, like just going and going. And I
It
don't
could
know.
be. Whatever it is, I love your stream of consciousness. So my like it's interesting how I deal with funerals is that like when I was younger, when I was like a kid, my grandmother had her spouse die. So they were there and I remember thinking to myself like I was thinking about like does my grandmother want someone to cry with? Like if no one's crying around her, she won't feel permission to cry. And so like I got myself to cry because I wanted her to feel more comfortable with crying. So it was like kind of like I was kind of trying to like emotionally position myself so then my grandmother would be as comfortable as she could be.
Oh, that is sweet. Huh. I would I would have never thought of that. I probably think of the opposites. Like I want people to think I'm strong so they don't break down either. Like maybe that, or and I just don't like looking weak and emotional in front of others. Because as a kid I was very emotional, and I think, trying to figure out and contain my FI and process all those feelings. I was an emotional, crying a lot, little girl, and my feelings got hurt very easily and very sensitive. I mean, sometimes you could just look at me the wrong way, and my face would get like bright red, and I'm like, oh, so, but probably because that all that feelings is up so high, and you have to like mold it and work with it and be that, the artist of your FI and mold it to react how you want it to react. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like sometimes FI users, because they process their own emotions alone, they kind of like they kind of infer that onto other people. So they're like, oh, if we all just process our emotions alone together, then it'll be good. So, you can cry alone and I can cry alone, or I can go through this alone and then we can all work through this. But then it's like for the FE user, like I work best when like I talk out my emotions because sometimes I don't even know what I'm feeling until I say it to someone else. So I need that like pinging back and forth, just as like extroverted functions need to talk it out. Like FE needs to sometimes talk it out for some of them. Yeah. And like, I guess like with the funeral things, like, I guess what it was, I was trying to demonstrate is like I guess like with FE, sometimes it tries to like adjust its emotions to go with the tribe's emotions. So it's like how can I adjust my emotions so it's like the most appropriate in this scenario? And so FE is less about looking inward to feel, but it's more about looking outward, and then it learns how to feel by looking outward. And so if that makes any sense. And so Sheila, I watched one of your videos before, and you talked about presents and about how you feel awkward opening presents in front of people, and I was wondering if you could go into that.
Yeah. So in my video, I talked about, I think it was before Christmas, I was stressing about presents and thinking about presents. And I like getting presents, but I hate opening them in front of people because I don't like, okay, I usually have a good grasp on all my emotions and my feelings all the time. So when somebody puts a present in front of me and I'm thinking, oh crap, what if I don't like this present? I'm going to have to pretend I like it, and put on the, oh, I love it, even though I might not. And so I have all this anxiety and stress leading up to having to fake my emotion or not be authentic with my emotion. And so I'm always just like, I would much rather open the present later. I hate having people watch me open it and I'm like, oh crap, are they gonna see how I really feel? Like, and they're gonna know that I don't like this present. And so that gives me a lot of anxiety, is having to fake what I really feel and being on the spot in that moment.
Yeah. That is so fascinating. Like, thank you. That gave me a look into your mind, and I'm so wowed. And so, my question for you, Sheila, is: do you know any examples of ISFPs?
Um, so I know Brie Larson was just typed as, my exact type in OP terms. And so we're like the twin type. And that was really kind of hard because she definitely, watching all her videos, I really liked her like older when she was like on Conan, and I'm like, oh, she's just cute and bubbly and sweet. And then when she got the Avenger role, I don't know what happened, if she was just feeling really stressed and noticing how much pressure from the tribe was on her. And you definitely saw the worst in her during that time. And because it was so broadcast to the rest of the world, you either love her or hate her. Like, people get a real animalistic reaction to her. And I'm like, wow. And if I'm her type, are people having that same reaction to me? Like, I started really pondering her. Also, Taylor Swift is an ISFP, and same with her. The tribe either loves or hates her, and there's like no happy medium in a lot of ISFPs that are in the spotlight. It's like the tribe is either like feeling one way or complete the opposite, and I guess we do leave that void. And I did notice like in high school, I changed high schools, and I talked about this in one of my videos, but I was the new girl in high school and my junior year. And being an IP, obviously I didn't know I was, but I went to a party one weekend and came to school that Monday. And because I was kind of this mysterious, nobody knew much about me, they were filling in all this information like, oh, she's dating so-and-so. She hooked up with this guy at the party. And I'm thinking, I did none of that. Like, I sat and talked to one person for 5 minutes, but because I don't know, like, I've always had a lot of rumors and false accusations hurled at me. And I don't know if that was just because I've left a void of not filling that part of me in with the tribe. So I do relate to that, and seeing the other ISFPs in the spotlight, how much the tribe will come at them. So, I mean, obviously mine's on a small little high school scale, but I did get that a lot, and a lot of just drama that I didn't create and I didn't ask for, but it was launched at me. And even my girlfriend that has known me since kindergarten, she was always amazed. So it wasn't like I, like she would be like, "Oh, I don't understand why you always are getting this gossip or this." I don't know. I wonder if other ISFPs have dealt with that over the years, or just because, um, and I don't know if it's it might sound really cocky or something, but I don't know if it's a jealousy thing of, because a lot of, oh my gosh, this is gonna be bad. So when I was in high school, I guess I had some guys that did like me, like a fair amount of guys. And so, they might have been dating another girl, and other girls would be jealous easily. And it's just a weird phenomenon. And I don't know what that is. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think sometimes when people lead with DI, like TI or FI, they're so like they do their own thing. And what happens is that the tribe doesn't understand sometimes, and they're like, why is that person doing that? Oh, they're doing something in retaliation of the tribe, or they're doing something malicious to the tribe, when they're just like being themselves apart from the tribe. And so people tend to, when they don't understand what you're doing, they tend to infer poorly into it, and they'll project their own insecurities onto you. And it could also be jealousy because you're very pretty too.
Oh, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. I think I need you over on my side all the time. Just, "Oh, how's a pretty Sheila?" That ego. My husband would be like, she doesn't need her ego boosted anymore. And
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, in case you forgot, like, I just want to remind you that, wow, your sense of dressing is out of this world in a good way. And so, yeah, any other famous examples of ISFPs?
I've always thought Prince was an ISFP. I relate to him a lot, and he could be, like a jumper. He could be like FINI. I don't even know, but he definitely is feels very ISFP. Like his artistry and his creativity, and it's all about, his FI. And you know even like in the movie Purple Rain, well, if you've I mean, I'm a huge Prince fan. I live in Minnesota, and so I grew up in that era too. Like I was 12 when Purple Rain came out, so it was very. I mean, I'm an 80s girl, so the people he plays in his movies, like Purple Rain and Under the Cherry Moon, very DI characters, him against the world type of Clint Eastwood, characters. And so, and just even during Warner Brothers, when, he wrote Slave, and it was him against the record company and him against yeah. So, definitely seems very FI savior, and just his style and aesthetics and his music, and it's just like nobody else. So I would definitely say he was probably an ISFP.
That is superb. Great example and explanation. I guess like Michael Jackson too.
Yeah, I think a lot of musicians do fall into the ISFP realm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, not all. I mean, you could anybody can do anything, but if you a lot, especially the ones that have stood out and paved the way and have made very strong impressions, and like even Michael Jackson. I mean, how huge he was in the 80s, and the moonwalk he created, and his whole persona and vibe, everything, his white glove that he wore, and just, yeah, you can always just tell, like you said earlier, how we put a little spin, with Prince and, his heels, his attire also. It's like very individualistic, and want to stand out from the rest of the world and do something a little different. So, but it's effortlessly. It's not like we even try. It's just, yeah, we just ooze out that FI. We can't
Yeah.
contain it. We try, but no, it just is going to ooze out of our pores.
Yes, yes. FI oozing out of your pores. That's really those are really, really fantastic points, Sheila. And I guess other ISFPs I know about too are like Rihanna. I suspect Rihanna to be an ISFP. I also think that Tori Kelly, she's a musician too. I think she's an ISFP as well. These are also more examples. I think at the beginning of this interview too, Sheila, you also talked about how you thought Marilyn Monroe is an ISFP, so that's a possible ISFP too.
Yeah. Especially with her, wanting to change her identity too, like from Norma Jean and to Marilyn. It's like taking that identity so seriously, because we do. I mean, it's very important to be who we are. And, she must not have felt who she was as Norma Jean. And so she, had to change her name and her appearance. And so, yeah, I think we manipulate our surroundings very easily, and we like to manipulate them, and change, and we like to just be constantly new. Obviously, like when I was talking about cutting the grass aesthetically, I also have to change up the way I cut the grass. I can't go with the same pattern every time. I'm like, okay, because I get bored. I'm like, oh, if I have to cut the grass in the same pattern all the time, I will die. So it's like, because we live on like 30 acres. So cutting the grass, I don't have to cut all 30 acres, but it takes like over 2 hours on my riding lawnmower to cut the grass. So it's a big chunk. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, today I'm going to go this route. Next time I'll change it up and go this route. So, and even driving to the same place, I have to change it up. I can't go the same route on a street all the time because I get bored. And that very much is the SE need, the new variety, change. And yeah.
Yeah. That's what people, I mean, love about you. Because you also spice up their life while spicing up your life. And so you make really good points about like how like I have a conspiracy theory that, people who change their names, they're more likely to be FI users just because of the taking the identity so seriously that they'll need to like actually change like their name or change their dressing to match how they feel internally. It's just like the FI taking its identity very seriously. And so there's going to be a slight correlation you'll see there. And that's really cool. I had another comment I wanted to make. I totally forgot. Oh yeah. And I love the examples you gave, Sheila. I also see Lana Del Rey as an ISFP too. And so just to give you like the full gamut of ISFP musicians for you guys to think about.
I know a lot of people, will confuse ISFPs and INFPs because, we do have that NI that we can sound a little more NF, especially when we sleep process things or like writing out music. I'm sure that sleepy, when we ponder the world and what our purpose in life is and what we want to do and what we want to be, that very much is our FINI. And so when we're thinking about those things, which I think ISFPs think about that often, maybe a little later in life, but I would say early. I've always been like, what is my purpose in life? What is my goal? Why am I here? Like finding that deeper meaning of me and this world has always been very important to me. And I hear it in a lot of ISFP music. It's like it can come off very NF sounding, because if if that's what we're working on when we're by ourselves, and most people write music by themselves in the room, like pouring out their heart and soul, that's what's going to come out of us, as well as that NIFI. Because if you listen to a lot of the Prince lyrics too, he's very abstract in a lot of concepts, but still not too crazy. Like when you listen to his interviews and stuff, and I don't know if it's just because I'm tracking him really well and I can understand the NF, because internally that's my, internal record playing all the time in my head is, that life meaning. So
Absolutely. ISFPs are very deep, okay, guys? They're very NF-like, and so they often mistype as INFJs or INFPs very often. Like, ISFPs mistype as INFJs and INFPs more often than they know that they're actually ISFPs. It's a huge pandemic of mistyping on that part. And I loved your points about Prince, Sheila. So a way that I tell apart, like, ISFP from INFP musicians is that ISFP musicians, when they paint the picture with their lyrics, it flows way more. It creates like a cohesive NI picture. So it's all leading and creating this NI idea. So it's more cohesive. When you read their lyrics, like Lana Del Rey, you'll see that it's more cohesive, pointing to one idea, one abstract concept. Whereas like with INFP artists, they tend to take their lyrics in directions, multiple directions, just like NE. NE is like a thought experiment. It goes in multiple directions. So an INFP, you'll see their lyrics being more like it's like plethoric and less about painting a full image completely, like NI would.
yes. And I mean that even when you just say paint a perfect picture, that's like right there. That's one of Prince's lyrics. What song is it? Paint a perfect picture. I think it's off The Purple Rain. You and I engaged in a kiss. But yeah, and as an NI user, I do like having everything boiled down and make sense in one easy contained little box. It's like when any people are like, but no, let's, and I'm like, no. I like, knowing the one path, the one way, the one conclusion. And it's like, that is important for me to be able to put that in that little box with the beautiful little bow and not have the chaos of all these possibilities, because that's like, I like the possibilities because I love gathering the possibilities, but my goal is to hone in on that perfect possibility. Yeah. So
Yeah, I get that. Like my NI wants to know the perfect possibility too. So
yeah,
yes, and that brings us to our next question. So I was wondering, Sheila, if you could bring us through the ISFP cognitive function stack, and if you could go through FI first and your experience of it.
she's a beast, let me tell you, that FI. So I'm very aware of how I feel in every situation very quickly. I'm very aware of how people make me feel when I meet them. I mean, I will just right away get a vibe of, oh, I like them, I don't like them. And situations, I can walk into a room and very much be like, ooh, something's off. I don't like this. Or, oh, this is so, that FI is just constantly knowing all day long in every aspect of my life what I like, what I don't like, how it makes me feel. Very easy, just on every situation. It's constant, like, it's just that hot ember all the time that's just glowing and burning. And I don't even have to think. It's just like, oh, ouch, I like that person. This just automatic. So, and I do find myself definitely filling myself up first before I am willing to help the tribe, which FI is. But I love that analogy that people have used over the where, when you're in an airplane and masks drop down, it tells you put your mask on first so you can help others. And that's how I feel as an FI user is if I'm drained, I am no good to the rest of the world. I have to make sure I am filled up and ready to go, a full tank of gas all the time, or else my engine and I'm not going to go. So I have to, I'm just aware of that. And so yeah, that's where FI is just easy breezy, like breathing.
Yeah, it's so true. I love how you put it. You just like know when you like or dislike something, or if you like trust or don't trust something. Now I'm thinking about, FI, it does like put on its oxygen mask first. There's a saying though that I like that it's like FI gives from a place of abundance. So it can love people and it can give a lot, but it's like it's so abundant in itself in its FI that it's able to overflow that onto other people. So FI isn't necessarily selfish, like, but it is like it can give a lot and it can be so selfless, but it comes from a place where they are filled up themselves and they're just like flowing that onto you. It's like a cup, a bucket overflowing of love and giving it to you.
Yes, very, very much because I I'm very giving, when especially for my inner tribe. It's like FI also has that I talk about all the time, but we have those strict boundaries of we know who is our people and who are outside our tribe. And it is like I can almost just see my wall and I know exactly who is in it and who is outside of it. And the people that are in it, I will pour all day long. I will pour into them, but I'm never get to the point where I'm just like that frustrated. Oh, I give, and nobody. I mean that just doesn't happen to me. I mean, very, 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 very rarely will I ever get to that point, and it might just be when I'm been way stretched thin, or too many people are pulling on me. Like when my daughter was, a baby toddler, I did notice, being a little stretched thin then because you are giving all day long to this little parasite. I mean, she's not, but I mean, basically, it's like just all they do is take, and they'll give you a little smile, and you're like, okay, but they're just and then so I bet you FI and being a parent of a lot of kids, I have one, and it's fairly easy, but I have friends that have like 8 and 9 kids. And I'm like, okay, you guys cannot be FI. There's just no way. Or if they are, then good job that they are able to pour into all those little children all the time, because that is, as an FI user, you do feel you're very aware of when you're being pulled by the tribe and how they're depleting you of that energy. And so, but I am willing to give also, but never like I'm never like expect anything in return, because I do give from a place of wanting to give and not feeling I need to give. So I don't ever feel like people owe me, or what do I get back in return? Those things don't really cross my mind um, as an FI user. So
Yes, definitely. FI doesn't give from a place of obligation. It gives because its heart of hearts wants to give. So its FI center wants to give. So it doesn't expect anything back because it was never an obligation. It was always from their heart of hearts. And
exactly.
those, Yes, and it is so great how you mentioned Sheila about the inner group and the outer group. Like FI is keenly aware of who it considers like inner group or outer group, and with some FI users, like they know who. Like I don't know, like my ENFP used to call me um like sometimes they see people as like mine, or like in a sense that like there's a slight possessiveness with FI sometimes with some FI users because they know who is in their inner circle, and so they're possessive of maybe who is inside that inner circle that they're so clear of, if that makes any sense.
Totally makes sense, and I have noticed that, um, it's like it's like that blanket that you can just throw over, and everybody who's under that blanket is part of you. It's like they are almost a slight offshoot of my identity. Like, my husband is, even though he's his own person, he's still like my it's weird because yeah, he is, yes, he's my husband, but he's my husband. Like even when people like, he's very charming. And so like when we're out and about, I can see girls kind of like flirty with him sometimes. And I will just be like, that possessiveness will pop up and I'll be like, nope, and I'll pull him a little closer and be like, he's my, like, yeah, I do see that. Or even my child, when she would act up in public, I always felt like it was a reflection on me, even though, it's her actions. But as she's part of my I definitely am like, oh, that's a reflection on me as a person. And, yeah, it's hard to break that. And even as, okay, so she's, going into her teenage years, she's 13 now. And I'm really noticing that strong independence, and I want to foster that and give her that. But at the same time, my is just like, no, you are my little girl. And like, it's like I still have this vision of her just being this little toddler, and it's hard to let her, like, release her in the sense of her own individual person, because I just, yeah, so I do feel that possessiveness with the when they're my part of, yeah, because they are almost part of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. The possessiveness of FI comes from like the inside them feeling like a part of you. So well put, Sheila. 10 out of 10 explanation. And so we're on to,
A crazy woman though.
it's all great. Like you're too hard on yourself. I'm loving it. McDonald's slogan, I'm loving it. And so we're on to your next cognitive function, which is SE. Could you tell me a bit about your experience of SE?
So I love my SE. I love being a sensor. Like in typology community, sensors get the bad rap that, well, we're not deep and we're just sensors, but I love my SE. One, I just love being able to gather all the newness of everything. And like every day I wake up and I'm like, ooh, what's new and exciting today? And it's a whole new, like, it gives me the childlike wonderment of being a child. Like it's like Christmas morning, every morning. I'm like, just what's this day have to hold for me? And I'm excited, and I just, whatever is thrown at me, I can totally just like, okay, we're doing this today, or change this, or do this. And it makes me really good at when problems are thrown at me. I'm really quick. I'm like a cat on my feet. I'm just like, okay, this is the problem. This is what we can do. Even like danger out in the real world, I'm very quick to run towards it and see where I can help and see what I can do. I do notice that I am, there's the flight or fight type personality, and I'm the fight personality. Um, I have seen that play out in my life where when I see a problem or a challenge or something right in front of me, I'm I'm going towards it. I'm not going away from it at all. Um, and it makes me really athletic growing up, all the sports, and I love physical. Like, I can't be too, I mean, yes, I could be a couch potato, but I can't be too sedentary. I have to, I love going for the walks. I love getting in the mud and dirt and gardening and playing outside. Or, we have a farm, so I have all these animals that I have to take care of. And if I have to go out for a whole day and shovel manure, I'm out there shoveling manure. And it's just like, it can suck and stink, but I still find joy in that physical activity of being physical or working out, lifting weights, doing it's like and manipulating things with the SE too, like demoing houses and sheetrocking and painting, and like I love the physical. Yeah, I love my SE.
Yes, and it also comes across in the way that you dress too. It's this like aestheticness. I but yeah, totally. So do you feel like you're very in your body then?
I do, but I also when I'm caught up in, like, say I'm outside gardening, and if I'm getting caught up in the activity, I lose track of time. I will be like, I haven't drank water, all of a sudden I'm like getting lightheaded and like, oh crap, it's been like 5 hours in the sun and I haven't drank, I haven't eaten. So when I get caught up in the physical SE of the world, I do forget paying attention to my body. Or even if I'm being really rough and all of a sudden, I have a big gash on my hand, I'm like, oh crap, I'm bleeding. How did I do that? Like sometimes that will, um, but it's usually more when I'm in doing something physical where I can just get caught up in the moment that I forget the body attached to it. But if I'm just sitting, then I'm very aware of, uh, oh, I'm sitting funny, and I get up and I'm like, oh crap, my leg's numb, like this, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, that makes a
I
lot of
does it?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, SE is good at knowing like how your posture sits or like the body language of yourself and other people. Like, it's just like SE is like a sensory acuity, I would call it. It's just good at noticing things. Like, it has a very broad range of the things that it notices. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I do like that's why I love when I talk to people, I would much rather talk on the phone or, doing these video calls. I don't like texting people. I like texting people when I don't want to talk. But if I want to have a conversation with somebody, I want to be able to see how they're sitting, see their movements, and listen to their inflection in their voice, because then I can figure out what they're really saying and what they're really meaning. When I just see a text, it's like I can't infer, well, how do they really mean that? And I'll start guessing too much, where when I see the person and hear how they said a certain word, my NI seems more like, okay, yep, I've seen that. I know what that means. And I can gather what they meant by that. Or just reading a room, reading the people in the room. And my husband's always amazed too. Like, there's so many times where my SE's like sees a friend, and I'm like, within seconds, I'm like, oh, she's pregnant. Oh, like, just, she might have done something slightly different, or maybe she only had like one cocktail when she might have had two, like early in the pregnancy. Or there's just things I'm like, where he's just like, why would you even think that? I'm like, I don't know. And even one of my girlfriends, she posted like a 4-month-old picture of her son on Facebook, and right away I'm like, my SE and my NI was like, I think he might have autism, right? And he's like 4 months old, but just this look in his eye, and he was just sitting next to another baby. And I mean, obviously I would never say anything to her. And then like when he was about 3.5, she came out and he was diagnosed with autism. So it's like, I love that SE of seeing the physical and then using the NI to be like, I think this is what that means. Or even it has given me, yeah, it serves my NI and it serves my FI. So I almost appreciate my SE more than anything. And I don't know if that's what we do with our second function, because our first function is just automatic. We don't like, it's just so natural. And our second one, I wonder if we do notice it a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a great point, Sheila. Like SE can instantly read a room because it is so attuned to the sensory now that it's like, wow, just it reads it better than like most people quickly and insightfully with the NI because it's always attached to the NI. And so I guess that brings me to your function NI. Could you tell me a bit about that?
I don't know. Well, obviously I like knowing, the one path and the plan, and I'm not good at planning because I don't, okay, I'm okay at planning short term. I don't like to plan too far out in advance. Even if somebody's like, "Hey, what are you doing in a couple of weeks? You want to get together?" I'm like, "Ooh, maybe that." Like even 2 weeks out is like, I'm thinking, well, crap, what if this happens, or something else comes up, or what if it's raining that day? Like, I hate committing too far out in general. I mean, I do, but I prefer not planning too much. Like, it stresses me out if I have a calendar full. I, I'm just like, oh no, all my days are planned. There's no freedom there. I can't just, yeah, I I don't want to have too much on my plate on a day. Like if I have to get a lot of things done, I will space them out throughout the day or move them to another day, because I just like, I don't have that need to mark off, I did this today. That, I mean, it always feels good if I get something accomplished, but I don't go to bed with these big grandiose dreams of, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'll just wake up and be like, oh, maybe I'll do this today. Maybe I'll do that today. It's like all these maybes, and it's frustrating because I don't get as much done as I know I could physically, but yet it's not that important to me for planning. And then I do really like to see how all things are connected. I like to see how we all are similar. I like to see how everything in nature is similar. And I think, as a Christian, I love that concept, that everything is from God, like, and my NI just likes that because it's just like, okay, yes, it just makes it all from one thing, like, not this, not that. Um and just the how nature and people, and it's just, to me, I see all the similarities and all the connections, and that makes me happy. And I feel like it has saved me, and this is SCNI a lot, but it has saved me because my gut just knows really quickly about, if I walk into a room and my SE is running and I'm picking up and reading a room, and my NI is like danger, like and I will listen to that gut feeling, and that gut feeling has almost never steered me wrong in life, to the point where there has been weird, like one time I was driving, and I was about 16, 17, and all of a sudden my brain or a voice or my head just is like, I'm approaching this green light and it said, stop. And I'm thinking, why would I stop at a green light? But instead of ignoring that gut feeling, I started slowing down to stop at this green light. And from the right, this car blew this red light going like 55 miles an hour. And I'm thinking, and I like shaking, and I would have been, T-boned. And I'm thinking, how would my NI just know that? But, to me as a Christian, I believe my NI is, something else, but I just have had those tons of those, and not those things that happen, or these, like, and I'm going to sound like a weird, crazy woman with the NI, but like, telling people something that, that I've felt and has saved their life too. And, I think everybody has the intuition. It's just like how well we're listening to it. And if we're acting on that, because there's a lot of times where I have kind of ignored it, and I'm like, what's the outcome? What could have happened or what didn't happen? But like, I remember one time in particular, I was sitting, and all of a sudden it's like, tell the lady next to you she has skin cancer. And I'm thinking, why? I don't know this lady, and I sat and had this like 5-minute struggle in my brain going, no, I'm not going to just tell her to go to the doctor. Like, I don't know what that is. Like, is that, and but I did, tell her, and she searched me out like a year later through this group of people we knew, and she's like, oh, I've been looking for you. I went to the doctor and I had 2 spots, and I'm so, so thankful. So it's like, I don't know if my SE is just like, oh, that's the type of skin that gets skin cancer. That's the type, of, so, and then, but yeah, I have just hundreds of those little NI moments, that I thought, because of all those weird things that you can't explain in life. That's why I probably thought I was more NI, but I just really listen to my gut a lot. So I probably sound like a real crazy woman there.
Well, no, it made total sense. I would actually argue that it's SE above NI that makes you be able to tell a person's skin that has cancer. So the thing is, like with SE, it's about variety, right? And it allows you to take in so much like sensory variety that you're able to, like, when you know how normal people's skin look like. SE has collected so much variety of how normal healthy skin looks like. So when it comes across a case that it differs from the average skin type, your SE notices because it's collected so much, and it's like, oh, and then your NI will go like, then what does that mean? If the skin type is not the average skin type that I see on most people, and then your NI will go like, it seems like skin cancer. I just know, because your SE is so certain that it's seen every other case of healthy skin, and that when it sees something that gives it an off signal, it's like it listens to that. It's like a visceral off signal, because your SE is so used to the average signal that when an off signal comes off, it's almost like guttural. It's like visceral. You can know it. And so that's a really good way of putting the SENI axis. Like, that's amazing, Sheila. Thank you for sharing. You helped save someone's life. You knew it, and you saved their life. Wow.
Yeah. But there's just, yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure people have weird, there's just a lot in this world we can't explain, but maybe we can explain it. But I like when my SE picks up on things and I can help the tribe. And I do appreciate that. And I do love just listening to the gut and I feeling and going with it. And and just, yeah, we all kind of have that little sixth sense in our back of our mind, when we're walking somewhere and all of a sudden something just doesn't feel right. It's like that NI knows, or N just knows. And yeah, just always listen to it, because I feel like if you don't, I don't know. And you always hear those stories after. People are like, oh, I always felt like I shouldn't have done this, and I knew it, and I did it anyhow, and it turned out horrible. And so, yeah.
That
Listen to
is, yeah, listen to your intuition. If you feel like something's wrong, listen to your gut, because your gut is you unfiltered. So if you ignore your gut, it's like ignoring a very precious type of part of you that would probably, it's like you without your blockages. So like listen to that gut. It knows great things. And
Yeah.
so Sheila, I'd like to ask you about your TE and your experience of your baby TE.
So TE, that one kind of confuses me a little bit, and I don't really know like when I'm using it that well. TE, it depends on what version out in TE land. But I'm good at figuring out how to make things work. I am. Whether it be like rigging up something in, say something breaks in my house and I can't fix it perfectly because I don't have the right tools at that moment. I can always rig something and make it work, until I can get to the store and replace things. It's like I can quickly be like, okay, I know duct tape will work, or the screw will work, or I can grab the tools that I need to make things work in the moment quickly. And is that TE? Is that part of TE?
Yeah,
And
like
then,
TE, yeah, definitely.
um,
Definitely. Yeah, TE is about knowing like the clearest way from A to B, like how to get there. So it's totally, yeah.
yes, and I am very aware of wanting to be efficient in life. And when I am doing, the SE in the house or whatever, and I'm running around cleaning, I am not a time waster. I can like juggle a lot of balls at the same time, throwing in a load of laundry, got the water running over here, doing this over there. And that's part of my SE too, probably the SETE play, but I can definitely just multitask and get things done quickly and efficiently. And I can see what's going to be more efficient. And sometimes I'm like, well, if we do this, this will be a little quicker. And my husband like, oh yeah, that makes sense, And so, and I don't mind tackling projects that require troubleshooting, like I can, if something breaks on the computer, I'm just like, oh, try a few things. I'm like, okay, that works. Or even like you were amazed how quickly I changed my thing. You're like, I've been doing that for so long. And I'm like, oh, just, I don't know. The SETE works really well in tangent together, I think. And being able to make things work for the tribe too. Like I've talked, for years, I was a hairstylist, and you have to TE make the haircuts work, the colors work, and just um, the craft of cutting hair too. To get a nice straight line, you have to be able to, be able to manage the scissors and manage this and do a lot of things with the hands to create. So yeah, I think they work well together, the TE and SE.
Yeah, they definitely. Hairstyling is a really interesting thought because I know an ESFP in hairstyling and an ISFP in hairstyling, and I also know you who also has been in hairstyling. So I wonder if there's a trend with like hairstyling and SFPs. Maybe just throwing that out there. You know, anyone can do anything, but I'm seeing something here.
Well, you got the SF part, you know, of wanting to, you know, look nice in hair. And then the TE, I think, does help with um, learning how to cut and the colors, and, you know, especially colors too. Like, that's another big art form. You know, if you mix a little bit of this color and mix a little bit of that color, and, you know, what are you going to get? And, you know, you have to assess somebody's hair type from the beginning, you know, because you could take that exact color and put it on 10 other heads and it's all going to be different. And so, you know, knowing that over the years and seeing how one color will react to this type of coarse hair or fine hair, or this color, or this texture, and then to know how to alter it and add this next time. So I would say that probably SE and TE are going to be really helpful in hair.
And FI taste.
Yeah. Yeah, because you want somebody who, because, you know, yeah, I'm sure there's people that go get a haircut who don't care what their hair looks like, but it's probably a very small group of people that are just like, I just want it short. I don't care what it looks like. But most people that sit down in your chair care about their hair. You know, like, hair is a very personal thing for a lot of people, even non-FI users. It's like, hair is very important. I mean, and almost like, you know, we people always talk about women in hair, but men in hair, same. Like, when you have a man who's, you know, losing their hair with, you know, male pattern baldness, it's devastating for them. You know, like, they'll go to great lengths to try to keep what they have. And I think eventually, I mean, there's some I'm sure don't really care, but I would say the majority of people really do value hair. Well, I mean, the pandemic, how upset so many people were that they couldn't go get their hair done. They couldn't go get it colored. They couldn't go get it cut. And they realized how valuable stylists are, you know, just like teachers. They realize how valuable teachers are when all these little kids are stuck at home. So we're the unsung heroes.
You guys are really the heroes, yeah. And so I'd just like to mention, like, there was so much NI in your description just now, because you were bringing us through like this whole NI philosophy, like painting out the whole picture of what it is to cut hair. So you're like, this is what it means to this person to cut hair, and it leads to this. And so like NI, you'll notice that it fleshes out the entire picture. Like, it'll try like it'll go through one idea, but it'll go through it completely. And I feel like Sheila just did it right now, because when she was talking about hair cutting, she didn't jump from idea to idea like Annie would. What she did right now was like she explored the complexity of cutting hair in full depth, into the, like, fleshing out the full depth of it just now. And I feel like it was very NI. So I loved listening to you talk.
So that's NI, huh? Yeah, I always wonder when, you know, like I said, when I'm talking, I'm not really paying attention to what I'm saying. It's not until after the fact where, you know, you rewatch a video and really pay attention. Because I mean, I know the words that are coming out in my mind, and I don't know, you know, like, sometimes they don't come out the way I want them to. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure everybody's like, that's not what I meant to say, or that's not how I sounded in my head. And then when I'm just like in the moment, I'm in the moment talking, but I'm not really listening to myself. It's like, it's weird because all of a sudden, when I'm talking and really thinking about something, it's almost like a little trance. And then I'll all of a sudden, like, oh, and I'll come out and be like, oh, there's people around. I do notice, like, when I do talk a lot, I do notice I'm like, kind of like, go in, talk, and then, like, you know, okay, and then look out at the world and be like, does that make sense? Or, are you getting that? So I don't know if that's just having those internal FINI. I don't know.
Yeah, Sheila, you just used NI again right now. You were examining the patterns within your own mind. So when you were talking, you were like, so when I do this, and it leads to this. And so what you're doing is you're examining your own self-making patterns at that moment. And I was like, wow, that is such a clear demonstration of NI. Like, wow, I love it. Great. Like, wow. Just thank you for illustrating your thought process to me. And so that brings us to our next question. What are some like misunderstandings that people have about the ISFP personality?
That we're shallow. I think I hear that. That we're just moody. I guess, how come I'm going to the negative? You didn't ask for negative, did you? And I'm going right to what I don't like about I guess it was misconceptions. So, yeah, I would say those two are kind of the ones that irk me when I hear about just, SEFI people, or FISC people, just that, or just sensors in general, how we can't be deep, or, I mean, yes, the feelings do come out, and I'm not ever going to come, say I'm very, logic based, but I can think and process the thinking part, obviously. But yeah, that irks me when people just think we can't do what we can do. And I'm very much, I like to prove people wrong too. And I don't know, I have a very competitive nature, and everything is a competition with me sometimes, when it doesn't even need to be a competition. But I'm very hard on myself. And so when, like, even like, say we're walking at the mall and we're going to, walk upstairs, right away I see stairs and somebody's by me, and it's a competition. It's like, who can run up the stairs the quickest? And I'm like running up the stairs, and I'm like, I beat you. And I don't know why but it's also a fun way too. If I get beat, I'm not like, but I definitely want a rematch. If we're playing a game, and I'm down or I lose, I'm like, okay, let's do it again. So I have this desire to prove myself constantly to the world. And I guess that's a little IP-ish there. But
yeah.
So when people do say we're shallow or not deep, that frustrates me, because and I think with FI too, if you aren't in our inner circle, we will give you the shallow, we will give you the superficial. We do keep it like, rainbows and sunshine on the outside, but the minute we bring you in, you're like, you're coming in. Are you ready? Put your bathing suit on. We're going deep. So, but we just don't show that part, I guess, to that many people.
Yeah. So ISFPs are filled with a well of depth. It's just that they're selective with who they show it to. And so that brings us to our last question. And so what advice would you have for the ISFPs watching this?
Give yourself grace, because we are our worst critics, and we are very hard on ourselves. We do have this internal standard that we want to live up to. And we set the bar high. And so give yourself grace. If you have to lower that bar a little bit, then lower it a little bit until you get to that level, and then move it up. It's like, it's all or nothing sometimes. And it's like, we just want to be the best we can, but to go from here to there is sometimes daunting. So yeah, definitely give yourself grace. Don't go all in on your FI. Remember the other people around you. Because if you're all in on yourself, it's going to be a lonely road. So definitely make sure you're giving enough of yourself as well, and they're just not taking all for yourself. I still have to remind myself on a daily basis of that one, and not to be so hard on myself, because I am, and not to let worry about what people are thinking about you deter you from wanting to do something, because sometimes not knowing what the tribe thinks of you, with the IP, it will cause a little bit of that paralysis of like, oh, I don't want to put myself out there because I don't want to get attacked, or I don't want to deal with this type of conflict, or I don't want to deal with that kind of issue. So sometimes it's easier to just stay stagnant in your little bubble. But then you're not going to grow, obviously. And sometimes if you stay in that bubble too long, you do lose touch of the outside world. And so yeah, just don't let the fear of the tribe and the unknown, the NT of the world, scare you. And yeah, so because we do have so much power in our functions. Like if you look at our stack, it's a dang good stack to have. And if we could just utilize it all, we could be unstoppable.
Yes. You ISFPs are a living piece of artwork. Like, don't let the tribe, like, make you hesitate with that. Just live out your purpose as, like, a piece of living art, and then you will benefit society and the world at large, because you guys are wonderful. And you guys bring a unique flavor to the world that enhances the world. And we're so much better with you guys in it. And so thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Sheila, for coming on. Like, you are like the queen of your own fashion style. Like, I am wowed by like just your pure gorgeousness as like aesthetically as a person, but also your thoughts are gorgeous too. So thank you for being like pretty inside and out. I very much appreciated our conversation, and you really taught me about the depth of the ISFP personality. And it's truly like this type is just so individualistic, and it knows its own style so well that it enhances the world by like bringing out style into the world. And I'm so thankful that we have people like you, Sheila, that are bringing a magical flair, or like a wonderful flair of their own into the world. Your FI fire enhances the world. You make the world burn brighter. So I am infinitely, infinitely charmed and thankful for that. And thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for all that FE. I'm like, it's a beautiful, like, I'm like, is that FE? Is that just pouring FE on me right there?
Yeah, I guess that's what Dave Power calls it. He was like, oh, the FE.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for being so beautiful and eloquent with your words to bless others too. So thank you for having me.
Oh, I feel like this conversation was a mutual blessing. So the blessing is reciprocal. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Also, my earpiece is falling out. But yes, thank you, audience, for listening this long. I'm sure that Sheila has brightened up your day by telling you about the wonderful insides of her mind. And so I hope you all have a great week. Stay safe. See you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.